Hello there and welcome back to my channel. Alright, so it's been a while since I've done the first two Halloween movies and I decided to skip the third one since it was an anthology film and go straight directly towards the fourth one. I am doing the Michael Myers timeline. This movie was released, I think, 10 years after the first one or something like that, and it takes place 10 years after the first event, keeping in mind that parts 1 and 2 are one continuous night, that this is his second time breaking out of an insane asylum. It tells a story of what happens after Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Strode, has passed, and we are following her daughter as the new main character, and her older foster sister, so we have Jamie and Rachel as the new leads. And yeah, Mustafa Akkad was the series runner at the time, and everybody had just really wanted Michael Myers back because he was so popular and everybody didn't care about the third part. So after much demand, they brought him back, and when this hit theaters, apparently it was a huge success and everybody really loved it. I personally love it, coming into these movies as someone who's never seen them before. 2 years ago, before 2018 the version of Halloween came out, I watched all of them for the first time and I ended up really loving this one. So with all of that being said, let's get right into Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. So immediately the opening credits of this movie are different than parts 1 and 2, but they are so pretty. I love the feel of like the farm, town kind of a thing. I grew up in an area like that, so seeing this like fall, sunset, creepy view is so perfect. I love the October feel, the Halloween feel that this opening credits brings, and even though it is different, I still think personally I probably prefer these ones a little bit better just because the scenery is so eerie, and I really love that about it. Something that was fun for me is having Donald Pleasance back in this movie, and they don't really explain too much about the ending of 2. They kind of just leave that open for what it is, and I like the beginning transfer of Michael Myers from the hospitals. It feels very classic. It's on a dark and stormy night as well. And a lot of people love that first kill with like the thumb in the forehead, and I think that's pretty cool too, but there are some other kills I think that I preferred more in this one that I thought were pretty cool, but yeah, that ambulance scene where he breaks out is pretty awesome. I know that that's a classic scene. Meeting Jamie Lloyd as Laurie Strode's daughter, man, Danielle Harris plays this role so well, and she was such an adorable little girl, and she's such a great actress, and we feel so bad for this character, seeing how sad she is, and this whole nightmare sequence that she's having in her head at the beginning actually was pretty terrifying for me the first time I watched it, whenever I watched it alone and in a dark room. Another one of my favorite parts of this movie is whenever we get to the part where Michael has escaped already and he's killed a few people in the gas station slash like pit stop area, and we have like this scene where he's like in bandages in a hospital outfit gown, and I really like that because I like hospital things and settings and such. And whenever he kills the mechanic, it was so good because he takes the jumpsuit, and Dr. Loomis comes in there and he sees Michael standing there, and we get that beautiful zoom shot. I really love that, you know, revealing him for the first time that we've seen him in 10 years, you know, from the eyes of Dr. Loomis. And it's just crazy because this is the reaction of a man who has been traumatized by the forces of evil, so he says. And Michael Myers is evil, and that's exactly the route that they're taking in this film. His goal in this film is to go after and extinguish his bloodline. And so going after this little girl that is his niece is his new target. I think that they did a good job making this one feel very of the times. Like, it's a very teen movie as well. You know, you got the girl who's worried about the boy who likes the other girl, and she's babysitting, and she kind of doesn't want to, but they have a good relationship as sisters, and I like the way that they're able to show the progression of how she starts to mother this little girl and care for her, and she starts to become a human being for her, and I like that and how they how this traumatic situation actually brings them closer. When we're at the discount store and Jamie's picking out her clown costume, I love that that is like a nod to the original when Michael Myers is a child and he killed his sister for the first time. She has this like psychological connection, and she keeps having these like sort of like visions that she doesn't understand, and it's because of her connection to her uncle. And then he shows up behind her and grabs the new mask and pulls it off the shelves and like terrifies her while putting it on. And we're meant to believe that maybe she like hallucinated that or whatnot. But then we figure out that he really is there, and he really did steal the mask, and that's how he got the mask in this version. Now, the mask is one of the most talked about things in this franchise, and it honestly wasn't a thing for me until people started pointing it out and I started watching YouTube videos and stuff like that. What can I say? I like the mask in the first one and the second one and this one as well. I actually really like this one. I think I prefer this mask over the one in part 2, just because the way that the mask in part 2 is warped was a little weird for me. I'd rather just have the story of he grabbed a new one off the shelves, and that worked for me. It's where like part 5 is where, I don't know, and H2O sometimes, I don't know, but yeah. The mask for me isn't that big of a deal. I kind of like it in this one. I like that this movie has plenty of POV shots of Michael Myers stalking and chasing, and whenever he's, doing his Michael Myers thing throughout the movie, they don't flood you with score, and that's something that I like, is that it's very quiet, and the tension that they build is very good. Sometimes there's movies that are quiet, and it's not enough, but the quiet moments for this one really, really work, especially whenever they get to the whole final trick-or-treating era, and Jamie and Rachel get separated, and that's when like the whole final act starts to go down. To me, I love this because it is, what you want out of a Halloween movie, out of a slasher movie. It's how you want to see Michael Myers act. It is an intense scene whenever you think about how the cops are thinking that there's 3 Michaels, but then it's just kids in costumes, and distracting from where and which one and what's going on and where is Michael really, and do people really believe that he's back. I think that was a pretty good aspect that they integrated into the plot as well. One of the parts that felt really eerie and had a lot of tension for me was whenever Rachel and Jamie are finally reconnected and brought upstairs back into the house, and they're kind of just waiting for the police to show up. I hate that waiting feeling, what's going on and all the tension and how scared they must be, and is something going to happen or is it not? Are they safe? They don't know. And so whenever the one guy, the cop who's guarding, gets killed and the girl who's making coffee comes around, the one that's like, fuck off, Wade, that's a big talked about part of this movie too. So many quotable lines. So is the double scoops. I know that's quotable too. But as she's bringing the coffee around, she figures out that he's been killed, and then Michael Myers comes after her, and he has that gun, and he just shoves it through her. That might be one of the best kills in this movie for me. And then, immediately he starts going after, what was his name? Like Brandy or Brady, something like that. And the other 2 little girls, and chasing him up the stairs. It was such an intense scene. I like going through the house and up and onto the roof. This roof scene actually was really very good because they made the tiles look very slippery. It looks very steep, and then they fall off a couple of times, and the tension for this, even when I watched it most recently just now, it still felt very good. It keeps the, oh God, feeling in your gut where you just don't know what's going to happen, and then Michael Myers climbs up on the other side and like kind of cuts them off, and they have to shimmy back their way around, and they end up sliding down and falling onto the chimney, and Rachel's lowering Jamie down, and the other girl ends up falling off the roof, and you think that she might have knocked herself out or be dead or whatever, and Jamie gets down and she's all sad, and she's like, wake up, you can't die. I felt so sad at the first time I saw that, and I just thought it was like such a crazy concept to have Michael just like peering around the corner and coming after her. Seeing her run away and just having to leave Rachel behind was so scary. And I also thought about, like, does Michael even care about her? Does he think that she's dead? Is he gonna just walk right on by her? He does, obviously. But having the shots of Jamie like running in the streets, screaming, and Michael Myers coming after her is very, very reminiscent of the first movie whenever Laurie Strode is going down the streets of Haddonfield. And I also just thought that what an aspect of this movie to where we're terrifying a child. We're coming after a child. Seeing a little girl run is crazy. I mean, we got a little bit of the aspect of that from the first movie whenever Lindsay Wallace and Tommy are being babysat by, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie, but not to the extent of making the final girl like a little girl. And that was really very hard and probably like not groundbreaking, but like very probably not as accepted at the time to like put a child in like such danger. And I really appreciated the aspect in the third act of this movie, thinking that they've gotten away and that they're safe, and seeing them all come together, the townspeople, when the power goes out. Actually, that might be my favorite kill, when Michael throws the guy into the electricity thing. I, for some reason, just really liked that one, how it was like spooky and he crept up on him and played this whole like Halloween thing. I thought that was very meta. And yeah, they're trying to get out of town, waiting for the cops to show up, and Michael's been under the car the whole time, and you're like, what? Oh my god, of course he was. Like how could he have not been? And it's this whole thing where he like takes out the other two guys in the back of the truck silently, and then flips the other one over as well, and he crashes in through the window, grabbing the driver's neck and like ripping it. I heard that they went back and filmed some more like gory scenes for that, and it works, it pays off, and I think it still holds up, and I'm glad that they did that. It might have been too grotesque at the time, but looking back at it now, it's very still good, especially for being a movie that I've watched in 2020. I can still tell, obviously, that it was made back in the 1980s, but if they hadn't updated that, you know, gruesomeness, it might not have held up as well today. But yeah, just seeing that whole chase of Rachel trying to get him off of the car was so stressful, and you felt bad for Jamie, you know, being around in that too, and she finally just gets him off the top, and he's standing there, and she puts it in gear, and she takes him down. Bam, hits him, sends him flying. I thought, really, I was like, wow, I don't know where they're gonna go for part 5, you know, because I hadn't seen them at all. And I just remember like thinking like, no, don't get out, don't get up, don't go over there, don't pick up his hand, don't touch it, why are you doing that? Like the obvious horror movie questions. And we'll have to talk about the aspect that they, you know, led into that within the next movie, because that's where that plot carries in. But it was emotional this time at least, and it still is in the next one, but just seeing the potential of what could have been, and you know that it's like the first time Jamie's like touching like a relative since her family is dead, and it's just kind of sad that that's her circumstances of another relative is dead, and that he was obviously a dangerous one and caused so much trauma to her. But then they're at the end of the film, and we have Rachel and Jamie together, and I like this one. I think it fits very, very well into the whole Halloween franchise. I know that there's so many different timelines that you can go with this one, but yeah, I would say out of the 4, 5, and 6 movies, like the Jamie Lloyd trilogy, I would probably prefer this one the most over those 3, but I'm excited to get into 5 and go over all the things with that. Pretty soon I'll go over the rankings and such, so let me know what your thoughts about it were. I know that I watched Drum Dums, and his channel was kind of what got me into Halloween. I hadn't really seen them at all until I started watching his reviews, and they made me want to go and watch them, and I know that he has like a big place in his heart for this one, and I always thought, oh, well then it must be pretty good. So when I got around to it and that I liked it just as much, I thought, you know, wow, like it's so cool that, you know, someone like him who went to the theaters and had that impact on him when he was young, and it stayed with him throughout his whole life. And then there's someone like me who's new, who comes in, who's a fan of his, and takes his recommendation and watches this movie for the first time and thinks that it's just as awesome. I love how these movies are timeless and they can connect people and they're fun stories. I'm super excited for Halloween Kills. I know that it's been a little postponed because of the pandemic, but I really hope that it drops no matter what this October. So yeah, this is my Halloween DVD set. It's the Blu-ray version, and of course I have both discs. I don't have the one with all the 10 disc set, but yeah, just the DVDs and whatnot. Here is the discs for 2. I don't think I showed that in my second review, and then disc for 3, and then here is the disc for 4, The Return of Michael Myers. And like everyone says who has this, it's just such a beautiful set, and I can't wait to be able to go over the whole thing. And yeah, perfect movie for a Michael Myers fan, of course. But yeah, make sure that you check out some of my other videos. I've done a bunch of different genres, and make sure that you check back for whenever I post something new. And yeah, thanks for watching. Alright, bye.